Hello, so this weekend I participated in the Ludum Dare Game Jam, which is an event where people around the world make a game in only a few days. I participated in the compo, which is where you need to work alone and create a game with entirely your own music and graphics within 48 hours. The theme this year was Keep It Alive. This is how the game looked in the end, but I'll get to that in a minute. To go with the theme, the first idea that occurred to me was some kind of game where you had a plant in the center, and then you had a bunch of flies surrounding it that were trying to kill the plant. And then you'd basically have to try and stop the flies from reaching the plant somehow. So I went ahead and made this, but then I was thinking there's something missing. So then I added this, and I was like, yes, that's perfect. And I made this little animation. So after that, I was looking online for inspiration on how to draw flies in pixel art, and I ended up finding a picture of a bird, so I decided to do that instead, and I made this animation, which I'm pretty happy with. So I changed my design a little, and I decided I wanted to do a platformer where you would kind of jump around and dodge these birds that are flying around. And if I was going to make a platformer, I would need some tiles for the player to be able to jump around on, so I made this. And this took a surprising amount of time. It probably took me around 3 hours in total. And this was the first time I'd made my own art for a game, so I had a lot of trouble with it, but I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. I also wanted to make something that you can collect in the game, so I made these little drops of water. I started out by bringing everything into Unity and making a simple scene. Then I implemented a simple player movement script, and I made a script that allowed the bird to kind of patrol around. I wanted to do something kind of funny when you touch one of the birds, so this is what I ended up with. I think I finished that one night at like 2 AM, and I just thought that was the funniest thing for some reason. At some point I started to make a lot of weird mistakes in my code, and it was pretty late at this point, so I decided to stop and pick it up the next morning. The next morning I was thinking I probably needed to start being more consistent with the theme again. So I came up with this story that this plant was left behind by its family when they left on vacation, and you need to collect these water droplets because no one remembered to water him. So when you collect each water droplet, it takes you to the next level. I also implemented a mechanic where the player's field of view shrinks over time, as if the plant is like dehydrated or something like that. I did this by adding a black sprite over the camera, and then using Unity's sprite mask to cut a hole in it around the player. And I think it turned out pretty cool. At some point I realized the game was missing something, so I decided to add in a few jokes. So I drew this little bubble, and I spent some time implementing a little dialogue system. And I wrote 10 little jokes for him to say. I think I spent a little too much time researching plant puns, but at least it was finally done. And at this point it was getting pretty late again, so I decided to be done with this for the night and start again in the morning. On the final morning, I decided to actually make the game, like, as in implement the actual levels that I somehow hadn't done until now. So I spent some time adding some more levels in. So you might notice that all of my levels are named level 1 through level 10, but level 9 is written out without the number. And that's because I found this weird bug where if you save a scene as LV and then the number 9, it just deletes everything in it every time. So I got around that by calling it LV and then writing out the word 9. But yeah, that's a thing for some reason. Then I thought I should try and make some music. I'd never done that before, but I found a website and I just played around with it until I'd made something I liked. Here's what I ended up with. And that's basically the whole game. It took a few hours to export it and to deal with some last minute issues that came up, but overall I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. If you want to play it, there's a link in the description where you can play it for free in browser. Overall, I really enjoyed the experience, even though I'm a little bit burnt out right now and I have an exam tomorrow. But anyway, thanks for watching.